CFMoto.com. ATVs and UTVs are for riders 16 and older. They can be hazardous to operate. CF Moto recommends an improved safety training course.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Santa Clara. This is Gavin Dawg. Graves elevates. Buries it. 2.4 away. Oh! He got it. Ortega away has just etched his name in the March Madness lore. Miracle shot for Kentucky.
Oh, man. Welcome into the madness. Friday evening on what was one of the best games that I've ever seen in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Spiro Ditas, CBS Sports on the call. I'm sure you've seen it by now. Kentucky and Santa Clara earlier today. Santa Clara hits a shot with 2.5 seconds to go up 3. Kentucky inbounds the ball, and Ortega Owe from about 40 feet at the buzzer banks it in, forcing it to go to overtime, where Kentucky would ultimately win it and advance to round number 2. And with that, a very good Friday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM as we have a home game for me tonight. We are at Dawg Tavern in the Bartram area off of Old St. Augustine Road. For you folks in Mandarin, for you folks in Bartram, Dawg Tavern is outstanding. It's so much more than a sports bar. I mean, you walk in and there's TVs everywhere, obviously, delicious food, but they got a kids' playroom in the back. They got separate, little meeting room areas. This is an outstanding place to come really for any event, sporting event, date night, family night. I've brought little Hack up here several times. Cannot recommend it enough. Dawg Tavern off of Old St. Augustine in the Bartram area, and we will be up here with you until 10 o'clock this evening. We are glad you are with us on a Friday night as the NCAA tournament rolls on. Now, Gator fans, I will tell you, I didn't think there was a chance that your game was going to start on time tonight. It probably will. Clemson and Iowa are already in the second half, and it's just past 8 o'clock on the East Coast. Iowa, by the way, 35-26 over Clemson with 17 minutes to go. Obviously, the winner of that game will play the winner of Florida and Prairie View. That game is scheduled for 9:25. I think it'll absolutely tip by then. I'm not sure if they would tip it earlier than that, but it will be on time unless something really slows down this Clemson and Iowa matchup. St. John's, a 32-16 lead on Northern Iowa. That is the 5-12 in the East region as St. John's continues their hot play after winning the Big East tournament. UCF and UCLA in the East region, the 7-10. I know there's a lot of UCF fans in our area. Not going well for the Knights right now. UCLA up 26-16 over UCF, 7 minutes to go in the first half. And Purdue and Queens, of course, Queens won the Atlantic Sun tournament right here in Jacksonville. Crazy thing about that, that was 12 days ago that the Atlantic Sun tournament ended. They were one of the first tournaments to issue their automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. Queens playing Purdue, holding their own right now. The Boilermakers up 30-22 over the Atlantic Sun champion. That is the 2:15 matchup in the West region. Hope your bracket isn't busted. 24 games in. I'm not doing half bad. 19-5, but my Sweet 16 is intact. We've had a lot of close calls, a couple of upsets, but a lot of chalk. You had High Point yesterday, obviously a nice win. I'll tell you, the 9 seeds have just dominated the 8 seeds. You look at what St. Louis did to Mike White and Georgia last night. Yikes. For you Gator fans, remember the contingent of you that did not want Mike White gone? Yeah, well, you're probably hiding under a rock right now. Obviously, he can't do anything more at Georgia than he did at Florida, whereas Todd Golden is one of the top 5 coaches in America. Georgia loses last night. Villanova knocked out by Utah State earlier. That's another 9 over an 8. The 9 seeds have kind of reigned supreme, and you're seeing that right now as Iowa leads Clemson, although Clemson is making a little bit of a comeback. Iowa now down to a 4-point lead, 35-31, with 15 minutes and change to go in the ball game. Of course, after this game goes final, about 30 minutes after this game goes final, Florida and Prairie View will take the court down there in Tampa. So certainly a lot of NCAA tournament talk. We will get in to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There is news surrounding the Jacksonville Jaguars that we will get into this evening. Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4 will stop by in about 15 minutes or so. I got RJ Saunders out on location with me. Of course, RJ is the host of Open Gym here on 1010XL. So we'll talk a little association tonight. Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes will join us towards the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Then RJ and I will talk a little March Madness and a little association. Also, Ryan Fowler, my NFL draft analyst, has been one of my guys for years. We will talk draft. We will talk free agency and how what the Jaguars have done affects what they will do next month coming up later on in the 9 o'clock hour. Again, live from Top Dawg Tavern in the Bartram area off of Old St. Augustine. We're glad you're spending part of your Friday evening with us. Every night here on Hacker After Dark, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Aaron Williams, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
on Hacker After Dark.
You know, call it fate, call it deja vu. I remember a year ago, I was sitting in Top Dawg Tavern. As a matter of fact, in this exact same location of Top Dawg Tavern, with, I believe, RJ Saunders, as the Florida Gators were getting ready to play Norfolk State in the first round of the 2025 NCAA tournament in a 1-16 matchup. Little did we know that time a year ago here at Top Dawg Tavern that game against Norfolk State would be the start of a run to Florida's 3rd national championship in program history. So now fast forward a year. Here we are again with our friends at Top Dawg Tavern. Here I am with my friend, RJ Saunders, on location. Same area, same location, same restaurant, watching the Florida Gators, again, in a 1-16 matchup, getting ready to take on Prairie View coming up here in about an hour's time. And the question is tonight, much like last year, going to be the start of a run for Florida to the national championship? Think about what it took to get back here for the Gators. They were never, in the history of the program, back-to-back number 1 seeds. You think of all the Final Four runs. You think of the great Billy Donovan, the great teams that he had. Even Billy did not accomplish being a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament in back-to-back years. That's what Florida has done. You think about what Florida had to replace. From Denzel Aberdeen to Elijah Martin to Will Richard to Walter Clayton. 3 of those guys are in the NBA. The other one is the starting point guard of the Kentucky Wildcats. They had to replace their top 4 guards from last year. Were there some growing pains? Yeah, there were. They had to figure out what they were doing. They had to figure out how to play together, how to mesh together. But to Todd Golden's credit, to that coaching staff's credit, Florida did figure that out. And despite losing their top 4 guards, 3 of which to the NBA, here Florida is again as a number 1 seed, getting ready to start a run to what everybody here hopes will be a 4th national championship. I'll tell you this. I don't think Florida's going to win the national title, and that's not because I'm trying to be a negative guy. It's just really hard. You think about the tournament, started back in 1939, as we know it right now. Only 8 teams in 86 years have won back-to-back national championships, including Florida, who obviously did it 05, 06, and 06, 07. The numbers, the percentages are against Florida from repeating. But if they do, let's just imagine big here. If Florida goes on a run beginning tonight against Prairie View A&M, much like they did last year when we were at Dawg Tavern against Norfolk State, and if this year ends like last year with a national championship, that would be 4 national titles for the Florida Gators in less than 25 years. That would cement Todd Golden as a guy that will have a statue in Gainesville. It might be Golden Donovan Court at some point if Todd Golden wins a national championship this year. To do it, it's going to be very, very difficult. They're going to get by tonight. They're a 35-point favorite. They're not going to lose to Prairie View A&M. I'm not breaking any news there. Here's the question. On Sunday, will it be Clemson or will it be Iowa? Right now, Clemson and Iowa are in a battle. 14 minutes to go down in Tampa. Iowa holding on to a 4-point lead. I would expect Florida, whoever it is, to get by that game. Next week is where it's going to get complicated. Is it going to be Vanderbilt or is it going to be Nebraska if Florida gets there? We'll find out tomorrow. Nebraska and Vanderbilt play for a right to go to the Sweet 16. Vanderbilt knows how to beat Florida. They just wiped Florida's face in the mud no more than 6 days ago. That'll be a tough game for the Gators. Remember, Florida beat Vandy in the regular season, but it was like 98-95. It was a crazy game at Memorial Gym, and then Vandy obviously got revenge last week. And if they were to get by Vandy, or I guess Nebraska, give them some credit too, Nebraska's a good team, then you would have to beat Houston more than likely in Houston in the Elite Eight to get back to the Final Four. It is going to be a very, very hard set of circumstances for Florida to overcome. The one thing I will remind Gator fans on, and I probably don't need to remind you, but humor me here for a second, remember last year's run. Remember what started in that 116 against Norfolk State. That was the one game that was never in doubt. Round of 32. UConn was beating Florida with 2 minutes to go. Sweet 16, Maryland. That was complicated until about the 5-minute mark. Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. Florida was down 9 with 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go in that game. Final Four against Auburn was anybody's game with 90 seconds to go. And Houston in the national championship game, again, anybody's game right until the final buzzer. It takes a little bit of luck to win a national championship. You got to get a little bit lucky. You got to be good, but you got to be a little bit lucky. And we know Florida's good, but will they have the luck that they had a year ago? We'll start getting those answers beginning in about an hour as their quest to become back-to-back national champions commences. Again, Alex Condon, Thomas Houck, Ruben Chinulu, Micah Hanlogden, to a lesser extent, Urban Klavsar and Isaiah Brown. That's 6 guys that played basketball last year on that national championship team. They are a veteran team, particularly with Condon, Houck, Chinulu, and Hanlogden. Those guys know what it takes to win this time of year, and you would expect that would help Florida moving forward in this NCAA tournament. As far as the games today, again, the one that really jumped out was Kentucky and Santa Clara. One of the best endings you will ever see as Otega Owe hit a 40-footer to tie it, to send it to overtime. As the buzzer sounded, Kentucky ultimately goes on to win the game in overtime. Texas Tech, give them credit. They advanced today. They lost their All-American top and their best player, but they have very little trouble with Akron. My national championship pick, Arizona, absolutely destroys Long Island. My Final Four pick, Virginia, struggled a little bit with Wright State, but they ultimately got it done. Iowa State big over Tennessee State. Alabama big over Hofstra. I guess if there was an upset, it was a 9 over an 8 with Utah State over Villanova. And then Tennessee ends the dreams of Miami of Ohio. Look, Miami of Ohio was a fun story. It was a cute story. 31-1, great. They did not beat a team in the top 50 all year until they beat SMU in Dayton. And then they puffed their chest out and said, look at us. And you see what happens when they play a team of substance. Tennessee was the 5th best team in the Southeastern Conference. That's the 5th best team in the Southeastern Conference. And Tennessee beat Miami of Ohio by 22 points. Nothing against Miami of Ohio. Good story. They just weren't good enough when they start playing the big boys. That's why what High Point did yesterday was so impressive. That's a nice win over Wisconsin. The question is, can High Point do it again? And you know who they draw in round 2? They draw John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks. By the way, I talked about this with Patrick Young earlier on the Gator Bites podcast. You know who Houston plays tomorrow? Houston plays Texas A&M tomorrow. They get a team out of the Southeastern Conference. I equated it to the movie Karate Kid. All right, if we're going to assume that Florida is Johnny Lawrence, right, the best of what Cobra Kai, the SEC, has to offer in the movie Karate Kid, well, you need one of your lesser Cobra Kai guys to beat Daniel LaRusso. We need Texas A&M to beat Houston. I have Houston knocking Florida out in the Elite Eight. I would love to be wrong about that. I want Houston to be eliminated. Texas A&M could do Florida a huge solid tomorrow by knocking off the Cougars. We'll see. The SEC has been very good so far. Only one loss, and of course that was Mike White in Georgia, just absolutely getting boat raced last night by St. Louis. Aside from Georgia, Arkansas won, Alabama won, Tennessee won, Kentucky won, Vanderbilt won. It has been a great first round for the SEC. Florida still to play, and Missouri plays late tonight against the Miami Hurricanes in what on paper is one of the better matchups of the first round here of the NCAA tournament. There is some Jaguar news as well. Again, live from Top Dawg Tavern in the Bartram area off of Old St. Augustine Road. Come on out and join us for Friday night action of the NCAA tournament. There is some Jaguar news as well. The Jaguars have reportedly signed Jake Bobo to an offer sheet. Now you say, well, who is Jake Bobo? Well, Jake Bobo is with the Seattle Seahawks. He's a wide receiver. He's going to turn 28 years old. He's a good special teams player. I think he only has roughly 40 catches or so in his NFL career, but he's a big body wide receiver. In fact, he caught a pass for a touchdown in the NFC Championship game to help Seattle beat the LA Rams. He's a restricted free agent, so the Seahawks will have 5 days to match the offer that the Jaguars have put forth in front of Jake Bobo. But reportedly, Jake Bobo was in Jacksonville for a visit. The visit must have gone well because he signs an offer sheet, and now we wait. Why would the Jaguars bring this guy in? Well, to me, it's twofold. Number one, he could potentially be a younger version of Tim Patrick. They need that big body wide receiver down in the red zone. If they don't want to bring Tim Patrick back, Jake Bobo is about 3 or 4 years younger than Tim Patrick. He could be that big physical wide receiver down in the red area. And also, they're going to need some special teamers. You lose a guy like Dewey Wingard. You lose some special teams guys. Jake Bobo is a very good special teams guy as well. So Bobo would kind of kill two birds with one stone. You'd play him on special teams, and you'd have him in the red area when you need a big receiver out there in the goal line package. So I like the idea of it. The question is, how much does Seattle want to retain him? They have 5 days. They have till March the 25th to say yay or nay. If they match the offer, he goes back to Seattle. If they don't match the offer, Jake Bobo is the newest Jacksonville Jaguar. Let's talk about the Jaguars offseason to this point. Let's talk about the moves that have transpired, including obviously the acquiring of running back Chris Rodriguez with Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4, who's always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. Again, live from Top Dawg Tavern in the Bartram area. Look, TVs everywhere. Terrific place to watch sporting events. But as I tell you, I'm 10 minutes from this place. I bring little Hack up here all the time. There's a little kids play area back here right behind where we're broadcasting from inside the building. He loves going back there, playing in that little area. This is a family place. It's a great place for a family night, great place for a date night, or a great place like this evening to come up and watch the NCAA tournament action. It's a home game for me in the Bartram area, top Dawg Tavern off of Old St. Augustine Road. Jamal St. Cyr, Channel 4, joins us next on a Friday night here in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us. It's Hacker After Dark.
Start your day the 1010XL way.
A little more down to earth.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
You boys could use a little churching up.
The Drill.
So beggars can't be choosers.
Mornings
That's a good joke. That's humorous.
on 1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Looking for golf that doesn't feel like golf? Welcome to Pine Royale, Callahan's new golf entertainment destination. Play a 9-hole par 3 course, compete in TrackMan-powered driving bays, and get ready for all-new 18-hole mini golf coming soon. As the sun goes down, the course lights up. Add in great food, a full bar, and space to hang with the whole crew, and suddenly golf feels a whole lot more social. Search Pine Royale Callahan and come play today.
Make more birdies with pointers from the pros on Brunch with the Tour with Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
Tour news, tips, and inside info.
Teed up by Clearwater Irrigation. Tuesday morning at 8:30 on 1010XL.
Bueller. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, pal.
Stand back, Jason. I'm gonna
Sneeze? Yeah, I saw that coming.
It's all this spring pollen, Jason. It's outside and it's inside my house, and I just can't stop. I can't stop.
Sneezing? Okay, let me help you with that.
How can you help?
At Bueller Air and Plumbing, we can improve your indoor air quality with air purifiers, UV lights, and filtration systems. Every new system we install includes high-efficiency 4-inch filters that work better and last longer, even if you forget to change them.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing.
Life can get pretty dusty sometimes. If you spend all day, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's team time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. NFL free agency week 2. We've gotten a lot of news out of the NFL, including a big trade that Denver got with Jalen Waddle from Miami earlier this week. A lot of news coming out, but still not a lot here in Jacksonville. Only one free agent signed to this point, and Chris Rodriguez, the running back from Washington. And, of course, fans are still, I guess, dealing with the departures of Travis Etienne, Devin Lloyd, among others. Let's talk about how this offseason has gone for the Jaguars to this point and what it means moving forward now that we are just over a month away from the NFL draft. Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4, always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. Jamal, it's been a little while, man. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a little while. We've been bouncing around. I'm doing pretty good. Appreciate you having me back on.
Hey, Jamal, thank you as always for the time. All right, you and I spoke about a month ago, and at that point, there was a lot of uncertainty about the futures of Lloyd and ETN and guys of that sort. And I think fans, and we tried to prepare them, Jamal, that there was a likelihood that both guys would be gone. I thought maybe one would return. I didn't think there was a chance that both would return. But the fact that neither guy is going to be back, Jaguar fans have had a little over a week to digest that. How do you think they are still comprehending that news?
Look, I mean, I think it is what it is. I think Devin Lloyd was always going to be gone. That was just the nature of the beast. And I think there was at one point maybe a sliver of hope that the running back market would do what the running back market's done in the past years. And sometimes a guy maybe doesn't get the check that he was hoping for, and that maybe ETN would be back, or sorry, Travis Achan would be back. But it didn't work out that way. He got a great payday from the New Orleans Saints. He gets to go back home to Louisiana. So both of those guys walk. But that's the nature of how this team wants to build it. Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke talked a little bit about wanting to be this draft and develop team, but they never really did the walking on it. And you can already see from just the way they're handling the offseason program that James Gladstone, Tony Vaselli, Liam Cohen, this group wants to truly be that draft and develop team. And they're not going to go and be overly active to keep guys, because that's how you get more draft picks. So that way you get more players in or can make more moves. So I think you got to know how to play the game. And this group is clearly trying to play this offseason game and play the comp picks game, something that honestly the Jaguars in their history haven't done a whole lot of.
You mentioned the comp picks. I have an interesting perspective because I have a lot of local guys on my show. I also have quite a few national guys on my show. The local folks get it. We kind of understand James Gladstone. Nationally, he's kind of a different cat than a lot of others. Not in a negative way necessarily, but when you talk to people about those comments last week about the comp picks and stacking comp picks and losing Devin Lloyd, and I can't help it. I'm going to still call him ETN, at least for the time being. The fact is, Jamal, that nationally that was not, I guess, well received last week. What was your take on what Gladstone had to say?
Look, I heard some of the national outcry, and to be 100% honest, Hacker, I don't understand it. Let's look at what a lot of teams around the league have done. The teams that are perennial playoff contenders. I mean, you look at a team like the Baltimore Ravens that are habitually in contention. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers, another team that's always seems to be in contention. And you look at the San Francisco 49ers. How often do you see them let guys walk in free agency? I mean, Eric Armstead came to Jacksonville, right? And that was a release, and he was a starter and playing good minutes for them. So it happens. That's part of it. You can't keep everybody. So you start looking at these comp picks in the formula, and what James Gladstone said makes sense, and that's what teams have done. The Ravens have been playing the comp pick game for years. This isn't new. James Gladstone just may be one of the few that's openly talked about it, where you say, okay, look, I'm going to let this guy walk. And think about it this way. For Devin Lloyd, for the contract he got to go to the Panthers, what would you rather have back? Devin Lloyd on the contract that he signed with Carolina, or more than likely a rookie linebacker on a rookie contract that's cost control for 4 years, plus probably what's going to amount to a 4th-round pick next year.
No, it's a great point, and it's something the Jaguar fans, like you said, just haven't really seen a whole lot, but it certainly appears to be Cohen, Gladstone, and Baselli's philosophy. Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4 with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. All right, let's take a look now moving forward. Let's begin at running back. Chris Rodriguez, the only outside free agent to this point that they have brought in. Talking to people up in Washington, Jamal, they don't understand why he wasn't used more in Cliff Kingsbury's offense last year. He got 4.5 yards per carry, ran for 500 yards, found the end zone 6 times. Look, I'm not proclaiming he's going to be a Pro Bowler in 2026, but again, talking to people that are around that Commander organization, they were a little surprised that as a restricted free agent that Washington let him walk.
Look, I think the Commanders are in a tough spot where they don't have a ton of wiggle room, and they have to find a way to go add big fishes. Look, I don't think it was necessarily the best move on their part to necessarily let him walk, but you know what? They're choice can be the Jaguars' gain. I think adding Chris Rodriguez makes a ton of sense. It wasn't a high-priced running back. It's a guy who you add to the room. He doesn't necessarily have to be restrictive for the opportunities for a guy like Tootin or LaQuint Allen to earn carries. But you bring in a guy that Liam Cohen's already familiar with, so he knows him personally, and he has NFL experience. So now you have that veteran floor guy who's not just like a veteran on his last leg. You've got a guy who's been in the league, that has had some success in the league, but there's still success left to be had. So if it works out, you got this guy that you can get 3-4 more years in Jacksonville with. If not, he's just in the room with these young cats who maybe a perfect world, Tootin takes over and runs away with the whole thing, or LaQuint Allen shows up and runs away with the whole thing, or another rookie they add during the draft shows up. You still have this guy who can be your short yardage running back and can be a veteran in the room, so you know what's showing up each Sunday.
Along those lines, and again, we're speculating here. We'll learn more in OTAs and certainly when training camp arrives. But with what they're paying Chris Rodriguez, maybe a little more than some people thought he would get on the open market, does that lead you to believe that it's going to be a running back 1 and maybe 1A situation between he and Bashal Tootin?
No, I don't think that's the case. Look, I think some of it is they had to get a guy in, right? So they went and got who they wanted, which ultimately ended up being him. Some of those other guys that left for comparable or less money, they went to places where they were guaranteed work.
Mm-hmm.
The Jaguars aren't guaranteeing anybody any work. If Chris Rodriguez gets beat out by Tootin and LaQuint Allen, then guess what? He just got beat out by Tootin and LaQuint Allen. I equate this contract a lot more toward like De'Ami Brown last year. Look, they gave De'Ami Brown a 1-year, $10 million contract. They expected him to come in and be a starting wide receiver. Quickly, they figured out he wasn't that, and they moved on. And it is a very similar situation. If Bashal Tootin, LaQuint Allen, or another rookie, or even Jaquindon Jackson come in and show they're the guy and unseat him, I have zero question on whether this regime will put Chris Rodriguez to the back seat. Chris Rodriguez is still going to have to earn his carries and earn his opportunity. Look, I think at the very least, I think he's probably your short yardage running back, taking the role of what Tootin was doing for the Jaguars last year. I think that's probably his floor, just from his play style and what he's done in his career. But if for some reason he didn't win that job either, it wouldn't shock me if we saw him as inactive on game day. Now, I think that's still a long shot, because all of a sudden we're talking about a lot of guys showing up and unseating him. But I don't think it's something that's unquestioned. If Tootin runs away with it, it's Tootin's job.
No, I think it's a great point you made, particularly De'Ami Brown. What I like about that is they gave him money, but when they figured out pretty quick that it wasn't working, they didn't force feed him onto the field. They kind of got rid of that problem, and he was a healthy and active for a couple of games. So you're right. They have proven that despite the contracts, they will sit you down if you get beat out or are underperforming. Final moments, Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. Jamal, to replacing Devin Lloyd. Is Devin Lloyd's replacement on the roster, or do we not have that guy yet?
I don't think he's on the roster yet, Hacker. I really don't. Ventrell Miller competed for the job with Lloyd last year, ended up losing out on that one, so I think he'll get another shot at it. Branson Combs, an undrafted free agent from Wake Forest a year ago, he made the roster as a special teams guy. He had a pretty good season at Wake Forest as a senior after transferring in. So could he be a guy that develops and maybe fights for that job? Sure. But I think this is a pretty good linebacker draft. So they'll have an opportunity to get a guy. We've had conversations about Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech, Kyle Lewis out of Pitt. I think both of them would make a ton of sense, and I know they're kind of fan favorites. Another guy that I think is worth a look would be Jake Galday from Cincinnati. There are options in this year's draft class where they can go and draft a guy and get him in cost controlled. Even if they want to sit and wait at 56, there'll be somebody on the board.
They did lose two guys in the secondary, Jamal, that regardless of what you think about Greg Newsome and Dewey Wingard, did play a lot of football for them, particularly down the stretch. Does that force feed them as far as what they need to do in the draft, or does the re-signing of Monteric Brown take care of some of that?
Buster took care of corner. That one's easy. I thought Buster was a must bring back because if not, that was a glaring need. So now you got your outside corners with Travis Hunter, Buster Brown. Inside's pretty much taken care of with Jordan Lewis and Jarian Jones. You still have Christian Braswell. You can add a corner on day 3 or maybe late day 2 just to kind of have a young guy that's in the wings developing if you want. But no pressure there at all. As far as the safety room goes, that one's a little interesting, Hacker. Honestly, I mean, Antonio Johnson had the coming out party last season, but do you want to keep him in the same role where he played last year, where a lot of times he was that third safety playing closer to the line of scrimmage, or do you want to move him to that traditional spot? Plus, he's going into the last year of his contract, so how do you handle that? Rayon Lane played mostly special teams, but mixed in at safety on defense a little bit, so he's a little bit of an unknown, but so is Caleb Ransaw. They drafted Caleb Ransaw last year to play, but he got hurt during camp, during the preseason, so he's a little bit of an unknown. He's supposed to be back, supposed to be healthy, but how much stock can you put into a guy that honestly you haven't seen a ton of? So you can't, it's tough to pencil him as a starter. You still have Eric Murray coming back. Safety is one of those positions that it wouldn't shock me if they put another draft pick into it, but it's also tough because you do still have the investment you've made in Ransaw already. So you surely want to give him an opportunity to kind of try and go win a job. So you probably don't want to spend a high draft pick on it that then buries him unless it's a guy that helps with the Antonio Johnson situation of keeping him in that third safety role. It's an interesting conversation at safety. Safety is definitely intriguing.
Final moments, Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. Jamal, as we start wrapping up here, we'll obviously have you back on before the draft, so we'll talk a little more draft in a couple of weeks. But you look, and you mentioned Antonio Johnson. Right now, Antonio Johnson, Trayvon Walker, Anton Harrison, until I guess they pick up the fifth-year option, and then Brenton Strange and Parker Washington, as it stands right now, are all scheduled to become free agents in March, in a year's time. That obviously is not going to happen. At what point do you believe we'll start seeing some re-signings?
I mean, I don't think all of them walk, Hacker, but as we start talking about comp picks in the same conversation about Travis Etienne and Devin Lloyd, Jaguars fans need to go on ahead and get accustomed with the idea of these sorts of guys are going to be allowed to test the market and walk. I don't think all of those guys stay in Jacksonville. I fully expect that Gladstone and company are going to let some of these guys play out, walk in free agency, and continue to collect those comp picks. That is the reality of the NFL today and the way they want to run things here in Jacksonville. All of those guys will not be lifetime Jaguars. Will they keep some? Absolutely. Is there going to be an extension coming? I've heard the Trayvon Walker stuff. If I'm Trayvon Walker's camp, there's no way I'm entertaining an extension this year. He's coming off of a down season. Why would he sign an extension this offseason? Because he's not going to get the mega contract that he's looking for compared to what he could if he goes and gets another 10-sack, 12-sack season when he's healthy. That one mind boggles me. I know people want to see that one get done because it would help the Jaguars cap situation. Brenton Strange is the one I'm kind of watching. That one, I think he ends up re-upping first, Hacker. I think that's the one that gets done. And then we look and wait on the other ones. Parker Washington's another guy that it would probably behoove him to say, no, I'm going to play out this season and see what happens. Because if he goes and has a big season, we've seen those wide receiver contracts. I mean, look at the money Alec Pierce just got. Mm-hmm. If Parker Washington picks up right where he left off, I mean, the mega contract that dude's going to command on as a free agent. So, look, there's going to be some tough decisions. All of these guys won't be in Jacksonville, but it's going to behoove a handful of them to play those final years of their contract. I mean, Antonio Johnson's one of them, where this is going to be probably the chance for him to pick up where he left off last season. And if he can continue to do that, what sort of money is he going to command as opposed to if he signs an extension now? So tough conversations, tough spot for a lot of these guys where, honestly, for most of them, an extension this offseason doesn't make financial sense.
The Parker Washington one is really interesting because, again, am I proclaiming this? No. But you could make an argument that the last month of last season, December and January, there weren't 10 wide receivers in the league that were statistically better than Parker Washington. And I am going to be fascinated to see if that translates into 2026.
If he picks up where he left off, Hacker, this man is going to be highly, highly paid. Talked to Parker as they were cleaning out the lockers, and he said he just wants to go into a season for the first time in his career knowing what his role is. And he is going to have that luxury this go around because he has absolutely earned it. So, again, for a guy, I know people want to see an extension for Parker to keep him in Jacksonville, but if you're Parker's agent and you got to give him advice to put him in the best financial situation, right? You're not going to tell him to do that right now. Parker, go out there and see if you can put together a 1,000-yard season, and then we'll talk money. It just doesn't make sense for him right now.
A lot of news with the Jaguars, and of course, they come back to work in about a month. Off-season conditioning begins, I believe, April 20th, and that is the Monday right before the NFL draft, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th up in Pittsburgh, where the Jaguars currently have 11 draft picks. Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. Jamal, hope your off-season is going well. Let's talk again in a couple of weeks.
All right, deal. Count me in, Hacker.
Streaming live from the XL Digital Studios. Polished by Harbor Dental Care, the locally owned smile restoration experts.
All right, Jacksonville, you know spring has officially arrived when the pollen's flying, the grass is growing, and your septic system starts thinking about getting your attention. Trust me, a simple pump out now can save you from a disaster that'll have the whole neighborhood holding their noses. That's why you call Duck Rooter the only master septic contractor in Northeast Florida. Real pros, not somebody guessing with a shovel. Right now, schedule your spring septic clean and get $50 off septic tank pumping. So when you're stuck, call the Duck, 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
When you hear Florida Gators baseball on 1010XL, it's brought to you by Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors, Randy Marion Cadillac of Jacksonville, and by the personal injury attorneys of Farah and Farah.
Life is about choices and the decisions you make. I'm David Robbins with Epstein & Robbins. If you're convicted of a DUI, you'll have to face severe consequences. Walking through the doors of the courthouse or appearing at a bond hearing can be extremely intimidating. Without the right lawyer, you're likely to make the wrong decision. Let our team help you make the right decisions in court. Epstein & Robbins, the right choice.
Epstein & Robbins, fighting for your rights since 1975.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. Thank you to Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4 for joining us tonight on Hacker After Dark. Always appreciate talking to Jamal. Again, a pretty quiet free agency for the Jacksonville Jaguars. As of now, Chris Rodriguez, the running back from the Commanders, is the only guy they have brought in. But as we talked about right out at the start of the show, Jake Bobo, a wide receiver from the world champion Seattle Seahawks, was in town for a visit reportedly and has signed an offer sheet with Jacksonville. He is a restricted free agent, so Seattle will now have 5 days to match it. They have until March 25th to match it. I looked at the particulars of it earlier. I think it was Albert Breer that had the particulars of it. So according to Albert Breer, it is a 2-year offer sheet for Jake Bobo of the Seattle Seahawks, and it's worth $5.5 million. So 2 years, $5.5 million. The particulars, $4.5 million fully guaranteed, a $1.75 million signing bonus. The base would be $1.25 in 2026 and $2 million in 2027. That's decent money for this guy who they obviously like. So now we'll see if Seattle is willing to match that offer. They have 5 days to do so, and this would not affect compensatory picks. I know that's been a big topic of conversation, the whole compensatory aspect of things, because the Jaguars and general manager James Gladstone like to account and get more compensatory picks, but this would not take away a compensatory selection. The Jaguars, by the way, have 11 picks this year and 10 picks already next year. So you're talking 21 picks for Jacksonville over the next 2 drafts. And we'll see what James Gladstone is able to do. Speaking of a former draft pick here in Jacksonville, I do want to let you know that DJ Chark has announced his retirement. He did that earlier today on social media. I'm trying to pull up here. So here's DJ Chark's numbers. This is pretty crazy if you think about it. So DJ Chark played, 4 years here in Jacksonville, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Chark played in 43 games for the Jaguars. As a Jaguar, Chark caught, let's see, he had, all right, so TJ Chark ranks 18th all time in receptions for Jacksonville. 18th. That is absolutely crazy that a guy that played here for only 4 years is in the top 20. Remember, DJ Chark, I believe, made a Pro Bowl. He had 147 catches in a Jaguar uniform for 2,042 yards, and he also found the end zone 15 times. So a decent career for DJ Chark. He obviously left here, went to a couple other organizations, never really found the success anywhere else that he had here in Jacksonville. But I wanted to mention to you that DJ Chark has called it a career today, a former second-round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, NCAA tournament. 4 games going on right now. 4 games yet to start. Florida, you are going to start approximately 9:25. We'll see what time this Iowa-Clemson game ends. It actually has slowed down. Iowa-Clemson, we're on kind of a record pace. There is 3:47 to go in the Iowa-Clemson matchup. Again, the winner of this game will play the winner of Florida and Prairie View A&M on Sunday. Right now, Iowa leads 57-51, a 6-point lead for the Hawkeyes. 3:47 to go in the ball game. We will keep you updated. St. John's, a 47-32 lead over Northern Iowa. That is the 5 versus the 12 in the East region. UCF, I know there's a lot of UCF fans in the area. It's not going well for the Knights right now. They trail UCLA 42-30, 17 minutes to go. Tough matchup for UCF. That's the 7-10 matchup in the East region. They're down by a dozen to UCLA. And Purdue beginning to pull away from Atlantic Sun champion Queens. I was rooting for Queens because they won the ASUN tournament right here in Jacksonville some 12 or 13 days ago. But Purdue is up 15 on Queens at the start of the second half. Games that have not tipped off yet, of course, Florida and Prairie View. You also have Kansas and CA Baptist. You got UConn and Furman. And then you got a battle between the SEC and the ACC with Missouri and Miami. That is the last game of the night, scheduled to tip off roughly about 10:10 Eastern time. So Miami Hurricane fans, it'll be a late night for you as Missouri and Miami scheduled to tip at 10:10 Eastern Standard Time. A couple of more items around the National Football League I wanted to get to. I also want to get to some NBA conversation. We're going to have Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report joining us coming up here in about 20 minutes or so. We'll look around the association. We'll talk a little Orlando Magic as well. I saw Christian Kirk was formally introduced today out in San Francisco. Still is going to look weird to see Kirk in a 49er uniform. He signed with the 49ers earlier this week. He joins Mike Evans out there. So Christian Kirk goes from Arizona to Jacksonville, but then only spends 1 year in Houston and now is off to the Bay Area to join the San Francisco 49ers. We mentioned last night Andy Dalton goes from Carolina to Philadelphia. He is now Jalen Hurts' backup. Carson Wentz back in Minnesota, which again is interesting. They already brought in Kyler Murray. They still have J.J. McCarthy, and now they bring back Carson Wentz. So who knows what to make of the Minnesota Viking quarterback situation. But those are your news and notes from around the National Football League. And I wanted to point this out. Sidney Brown, who I believe had a cup of coffee here in Jacksonville, he is traded to the Atlanta Falcons from the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't necessarily want to talk about him in particular, but from the start of the calendar year in the NFL, which was last Wednesday, to today, that's 9 days. That is the 19th trade to go down in the National Football League. 19 trades in the NFL in the last 9 days. I was watching the boys on ESPN talk about this a little bit, and they all made a good point. With where we are in today's National Football League, GMs don't have a lot of time. You got to prove yourself, and you got to prove yourself pretty quickly. Also, a lot of these GMs have come up through the ranks together. There's more of a relationship that these GMs have now than maybe GMs in the league had 25, 30, 35 years ago. You look at James Gladstone as a prime example. The relationship he has with Les Snead, the relationship he has with a guy like Brad Holmes in Detroit, because they work together in LA. There are just these relationships with these guys that work together, ultimately get GM jobs, and then can work out trades together. 19 deals in the National Football League over the last 9 days, and we'll see if that trend continues as we are now just over a month away from the NFL draft. The draft April 23rd, 24th, and 25th in Pittsburgh. Of course, the Jaguars, 11 draft picks total, including 4 draft picks inside the top 100. We are live at Top Dawg Tavern in Bartram off of Old St. Augustine Road. Boy, TVs everywhere. Absolutely delicious food, from wings to nachos, burgers, wraps, you name it, they got it. And one of the things I love about Top Dawg Tavern, not only do my family and I come here very often, it's like a home game for us. My house is about 10 minutes or so away here in the Mandarin Bartram area, but they got a kids play area in the back. Little Hack has wreaked havoc back there. He loves it. You can come out here for a sporting event with the buddies. You can come out here for a family night with the kids. You can come here for a date night, for a business gathering. It is a full-purpose restaurant, not just a sports bar. That's a big part of it, but it's really all-encompassing. I love the kids' play area in the back. Come on out and join us. Top Dawg Tavern in the Bartram area off of Old St. Augustine Road. And we're certainly glad to be out here. We were out here last year when Florida started their NCAA tournament run in the first round. Ironically, we're out here again as Florida is about 30 minutes away from once again starting another NCAA tournament run. More on the NCAA tournament. We'll also talk a little National Basketball Association as we roll on till 10 o'clock. We're glad you're with us. Live from Top Dawg Tavern in Bartram, it's Hacker After Dark.
Where legends draft and drip to the checkered flag.
Right into it! They crossed the line, and guess who wins the race?
This Sunday at Darlington.
Wow!
On Jacksonville's high-performance NASCAR station.
Oh, my goodness!
1010 XL.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold, silver, and diamonds from the public. Gold has recently hit an all-time high at over $5,000 per ounce, and silver is over $100 per ounce. Pay bills, buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold and silver for cash and get top dollar, or trade it in for a new piece and get even more at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick. We're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year, and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees. About $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org and you can apply there.
Apply by May 14th.
Tom McManus buckles his chin strap as he joins Lauren Brooks and Taylor Dahl.
I just love a man in uniform.
Helmets and heels. Afternoons 2 to 4. Served by Queen Law Group on 1010 XL.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
Come visit the best sports restaurant in town. That's Big Dog's in Orange Park, known for great burgers, huge wings, pizza, salads, and special nightly events like trivia and karaoke. You'll all love it at Big Dog's Restaurant in Orange Park.
The price of gold is soaring, and the price of silver is near record highs. If you've got gold or silver just lying around, Estates Roadshow wants it. Broken chains, old rings, coins, watches, diamonds, vintage jewelry. If it's valuable, they're buying it. No appointment needed, just walk in, get a free appraisal, and walk out with cash. They're also buying pre-1964 silver coins, flatware, sterling silverware stamped 925. They're buying coin collections, gold, silver, foreign, and domestic. Plus, they've been in business over 35 years with thousands of prior happy customers. Licensed, bonded, state-certified scales, highest tech equipment, employees with GIA certifications. The Estates Roadshow is happening 10 to 5 through Friday, close by in St. Augustine at World Golf Renaissance and Palm Coast at the Holiday Inn Express. Call Marshall at 609-781-6559 or go to estatesroadshow.com and follow Estates Roadshow on Facebook to see all upcoming events.
The First Coast Games is an annual team-building challenge to introduce fun activities into the workplace and focus on your employees' health and wellness goals. These goals include some friendly competition, of course, including pickleball, cornhole, volleyball, flag football, and other team sports. The games will begin in March. Register your company and teams at fcymca.org.
Frank Frangie here for Coil Fencing. Since 1927, Jacksonville has trusted Coil Fencing to protect what matters. And I trust them too. From tough chain link to your commercial project to sleek aluminum fencing your HOA will love, Coil does it all. Did you know that Coil can also install, service, and maintain those automatic gates that help protect your neighborhood or business? To schedule a complimentary consultation, visit CoilJacks.com. That's COYLE Jacks.com. Coil Fencing, A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey, it's Brent with Arcosa Crushed Concrete. If you've got concrete or asphalt rubble on your site, let me buy it from you, and I will recycle it into construction material for your future projects. Arcosa Crushed Concrete. Get paid for what you don't need.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. After Dark on 1010XL.
All right, approaching halftime. Hacker After Dark, 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock as we do every night here on Hacker After Dark. Again, live from Top Dawg Tavern in the Bartram area. Boy, Iowa and Clemson. Winner gets most likely Florida on Sunday. They are going at it right now. Iowa with a big-time dunk. Iowa with a 6-point lead now, 63-57 over Clemson with about a minute 20 to go. So Clemson's going to have to do something pretty special to get back in this game. Actually, there's a minute to go, 56 seconds to be exact. So Clemson down 6, 56 seconds to go. Iowa looking to salt this one away and get ready for a meeting with likely the Gators. Again, Florida will tip off against Prairie View 30 minutes after this game goes final. Let me welcome in my buddy RJ Saunders, who's live on location with us out here at Top Dawg Tavern. Yeah, I was driving in here today, and I was thinking it was you and me out here a year ago for Florida's first-round matchup. Needless to say, we had no idea at that time last year that Florida would go on to win the national championship. And the irony that we're right back here in the same building as Florida begins its quest to repeat, I thought was worth noting. How far do you think Florida's going to go in this thing?
I think lightning can certainly strike twice. I do believe that this is a team that really got on a huge heater in the middle and the late part of the year, and I think that you probably wanted to have a bad game like you had in the conference tournament.
Well, they accomplished that.
I think you want to have that early instead of having that when it really matters in the NCAA tournament. You already knew that you were probably going to get one of the number one seeds or a top seed. You would certainly be a top 2 seed within the NCAA tournament. So I think that this is a team that can do it, can be one of those teams to go all the way once again. But I do think that if they do face Houston, Houston does want to get their get back against Florida. So Not all, roads are going to be the equal or the same roads. It's not going to be as easy as it was last year, especially when you have a target on your back. But I think this is a team who's battle tested and has the right coach for the job, and Todd Golden, for them to, coach them to where they need to be. But I think there's going to be some tough teams and some teams that are going to want to say something about Florida's journey back to the national championship.
I had Houston, or have Houston, knocking him out in the Elite Eight for a lot of what you said. I wanted to avoid Houston like the plague because of the revenge factor. Not only does Florida not avoid Houston, they're in the same region, but they would have to go to Houston, a place that you lived for a couple of years. RJ was with us, went out to Houston, and then came back. So you know kind of the dynamics, the lay of the land out there. All right, you are my NBA guy on 1010XL. Me and you talk association a lot. You host Open Gym, which Sunday morning at 11 a.m., correct?
Sunday morning at 10 a.m.
At 10 a.m. Sunday morning at 10 a.m. this week. You can catch RJ Saunders on Open Gym. All right, give me some hope for the Orlando Magic. I know you're going to be in Orlando tomorrow to see the Lakers and Orlando down in Central Florida. Last night was bad. They got injuries all over the place. They're probably going to be in the play-in, if I had to guess. It looks like time's running out on Jamal Mosley.
It feels that way. In my opinion, I do believe that, listen, I'm going to take what Jeff Weltman said, whether I like it or not. After the trade deadline, he said, listen, I want to do a full evaluation process of what we need and what we don't.
Jeff Weltman, the GM of the Magic.
And, he says, I want to do a full evaluation process on everything. Doesn't think that it's completely fair, that, he can't really do a full allotment of an evaluation process because you really haven't had a completely healthy team. But I think you have to start to wonder, has Jamal Mosley done what he was supposed to do, which was lay the foundation, set the foundation for a franchise that was on the upswing? And, their calling card is defense. You were able to draft a couple of, great guys and cornerstones of your franchise. Now is it time to bring in someone who can take them to the next level? I don't know who that coach is. Is it a young upstart guy who's, got a lot of ideas and can bring a lot of young individuals with them, or do you get a more established person who's been around the league a little bit? I know that you and me, when we talk, it's always Mike Malone, maybe Taylor Jenkins, Tom Thibodeau. So Orlando, I certainly feel, is going to have a lot of decisions to make, but not only about the coach, but I think about the roster. Now, I'm not going to say necessarily that you got to think about the future of guys such as Paolo, Franz, Jalen, Anthony Black, Desmond Bain, if you want to say that's the core four, but you're going to need some guys who can knock down shots from the outside. I think that the team certainly needs help in that. Jeff Weltman is certainly going to need to, try to find something here in free agency or in the NBA draft to help his team.
We're going to go about 60 seconds here. We got Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report coming up to talk more association. I watched Oklahoma City in Orlando a couple nights ago. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, in the blink of an eye, has become the best player in basketball. The guy is the stud. Oklahoma City is already the defending world champions. Is anybody going to beat them in a best-of-7 in the playoffs? I mean, they're the overwhelming favorite, right?
In the Western Conference, I would like to believe that they're the overwhelming favorite, but I think there are a couple of teams there that have been battle-tested, and also a young upstart team that hasn't been battle-tested yet in the playoffs, but they seem to have OKC's number, and that's Big Wembanyama in San Antonio. I think that he lives for those moments. I think he lives for the occasion. But I don't think that you can sleep on a team like the Denver Nuggets, especially if they're healthy, in a 7-game series. And, I don't want to jinx it right now, but they're one of the hottest teams in the league, in the LA Lakers, who I think they're starting to figure something out here. And they certainly could, if they continue on this trajectory, certainly could be a team that has a lot to say. But OKC is, one of the more complete teams, well put together teams. Sam Presti, I can't believe that he's done it twice. I mean, you remember when he had KD, Russ, and Harden. Now he's done it with, J-Dub and SGA and those guys there in OKC. I think they're, they have to be the walk-in favorite, but there are a couple of teams out west that I think can give them a scare.
Quickly, Sunday morning, 10 a.m., Open Gym. What do you have coming up?
Absolutely. Haven't had a chance to give my thoughts and opinions on Bam's 83. Is it good for the league, or did Miami and their culture, did they go against everything in which they know? We'll have Kurt Heelan from NBC Sports. He'll talk about the Orlando Magic, also talk about the rest of the association. The Seattle Supersonics seem to be on their way back. Want to get a breakdown with him. So we'll talk about everything in the NBA in the NBA world and around the association. That'll be at 10 a.m. on Sunday here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
RJ Saunders does a terrific job with Open Gym. Catch at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. Live from Top Dog Tavern in Bartram. Again, a terrific place to come out. Not only watch all the NCAA tournament games, not only get terrific food, great service, obviously tasty beverages, but this is a family place, man. The kids' room in the back, Little Hack, is frequenting that thing over the last couple of years. It's a great place for a date night, a family get-together, you name it. Top Dog Tavern covers a lot of bases. Come see them in the Bartram area off of Old St. Augustine Road, and we're happy our friends at Top Dog Tavern have us out here again for Hacker After Dark. Iowa 65-60 over Clemson, 16 seconds to go. So it does appear that if Florida can manage somehow to get by Prairie View A&M tonight, that they will probably see Iowa on Sunday in the round of 32. Let's keep the NBA conversation going. My buddy Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Let's talk Magic, let's talk playoff picture, and more. Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report next, right here on Hacker After Dark.
Jaguars and Gators. Gators and Jaguars. Jacksonville's home sweet home of the Jaguars and Gators.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
What's happening, beautiful people? E.T. here. Let me tell you about a little something that's happening right here in my side of town in Fleming Island. Encore Research Group is advancing the future of medicine through clinical research studies focused on weight loss, diabetes, hypertension, and more. Their team of multi-specialty doctors are proudly serving folks in Fleming Island, Green Coast Springs, and Middleburg. If you ever wondered whether a research study might be right for you, find out at EncoreDocs.com to see if you qualify. Encore Research Group. The future of medicine starts here.
The flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach. Take a walk on the wild side and step into the great outdoors. Look at this beast. Captain Kevin and Captain Kirk join Jeff Lageman every Saturday morning from 7 to 10 on the Nimnet Outdoors Show. You got it. On 1010XL.
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, Checkmate's mascot and brand ambassador.
Why do you even talk in these ads?
People see me on the trucks, Brendan, so they expect to hear from me as well.
But I have over a decade's experience personally installing high-quality polymer floors right here in Jacksonville.
Well, I'm a professional mascot, riding around on the side of your trucks, smiling at passers-by.
Then could you at least tell people about our 2-stage polymer application process? Give your garage the finishing touch with a gorgeous floor that's guaranteed to last?
A bit busy posing for selfies, I'm afraid.
Years of experience?
Check. Adorable mascot?
Check. The team you need to make your garage gorgeous? Checkmate!
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit checkmatecoatings.com. That's checkmatecoatings.com.
At G&H Tires and Service, the G stands for great pricing. The H, well, that means honest service. For over 20 years, Roger and his team have helped Jacksonville drivers stay safe on the road. Need brakes, oil change, AC not blowing cold? Well, how about a super affordable $36 oil change? Affordable brake jobs, AC checks before summer hits, alignments for all these construction roads, and even free check engine light inspections. Locally owned, community driven. G&H Tires and Service on Beach Boulevard.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Looking for golf that doesn't feel like golf? Welcome to Pine Royale, Callahan's new golf entertainment destination. Play a 9-hole par 3 course, compete in TrackMan-powered driving bays, and get ready for all-new 18-hole mini golf coming soon. As the sun goes down, the course lights up. Add in great food, a full bar, and space to hang with the whole crew, and suddenly golf feels a whole lot more social. Search Pine Royale Callahan and come play today.
Did you know there's local savings sitting in your mailbox right now? Money Pages is packed with real coupons from your favorite local businesses. Save money at restaurants like Al's Pizza, on pet care at Forever Vets, and on entertainment for the whole family at the Alhambra Theater. Plus, make sure to download the Money Pages app for savings on the go.
Pages in your mailbox right now. 1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. We are in the midst of the madness of March in the world of college basketball. We're not that far away from the madness of the NBA postseason. Most teams have between 13, 14 games left in the regular season. We are about a month away from NBA playoff basketball. Let's talk about it with Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes. Brian's been one of our NBA guys for years, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Brian, we're good. Thank you, as always, for the time. There's certainly a lot to get into in the Eastern Conference and out west, but as always, we will begin with Orlando. Since the last time you and I talked, the Magic showed a pulse, right? They won 7 games in a row. They've had a couple of hiccups, just running into a couple of buzzsaws recently in Atlanta and Oklahoma City. But what's your overall thought on Orlando? Boy, Brian, 14 games to go. They could finish anywhere from 4th in the East all the way down to 10th in the East.
I know. It's a real dogfight, especially like 5 to 9 is only separated by 2.5 games. So, it feels like it's changing almost every night at this point. Like the Sixers were the 6th seed a couple weeks ago, and have now tumbled down to the 9. And even Charlotte's coming on strong. Like, right now they're the 10, and there's a decent gap between them and the other teams, but 7-3 in their last 10. They've looked good. They've been one of the hotter teams in the NBA since the start of 2026. Orlando, I just want to see them healthy at some point this year. Is that so much to ask? It feels like it's a lot to ask, but Franz is out right now. Anthony Black, who has been like when Suggs was out earlier this year, Anthony Black was like a revelation for them. Now he's sidelined. It just feels like we still don't know very much about what this full strength team could look like. And they're just kind of running out of time to figure that out before the playoffs begin. And you don't want to be figuring that out in real time in the playoffs.
There was a lot of heat on Jamal Mosley, the Magic head coach, probably a month ago, the last time you and I spoke. Now he's won 7 out of 9. We'll see what ultimately happens over the next couple of weeks. But are we still thinking that they need to get out of round 1 or he might be in trouble?
I think expectations were certainly high coming into this season, just based on the Bane trade. You don't make that move if you're expecting incremental growth. That was clearly like a signal that we believe it's time to accelerate and really get into that top tier contender area. That said, the East is fairly wide open this year, but I'm sure we'll talk about Cade in a minute, but the Pistons, Celtics, Knicks, and Cavs, I think, have pretty clearly established themselves as the top 4 teams in the East. So, I don't think anyone would be surprised if the Magic lose to any of those teams. Like, I think those teams are all going to go into their respective first round series favored over whomever they draw. So I don't know if it would be necessarily fair to Can Mosley for getting knocked out in the first round, especially since we haven't seen the full strength team. But that's the NBA. It's not always fair, and there often is a scapegoat, and it's often usually the head coach first, because you're gonna change coaches before you start breaking apart major key players from the roster. And I think The problem for Orlando, and this is going to be the case for a lot of teams that have a bunch of highly paid stars, is that title windows, I think, are just going to be shorter now than they were in past years, where it was easy to keep teams, like expensive cores together for 3, 4, 5 years. And we see after a while, even then, they start to break apart. We saw it with, the big three in Miami in the early 2010s. We saw it with the grit and grind Grizzlies in the mid 2010s. The Los Angeles Clippers was like Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan. After a while, your supporting cast starts to wither, and it just all starts to fall apart. The Magic are still on the upswing, and now, with the emergence of Anthony Black, that's even better. Like, their starting five, when healthy, is absolutely stacked. But I think they are going to have a fairly limited window with that core. So, I think now kind of is the time to make a move if you're going to, because I don't think they've got like a 5-year runway with this group. I think it's probably 1 more year, maybe 2.
Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes talking NBA with us here on 1010XL. Final Orlando thought, Brian. If Mosley, it's kind of the perfect storm this year. It is year 5. He hasn't gotten out of the first round. They haven't been healthy, so that's certainly going to buy him some leeway. But the problem for him is that Mike Malone's available. Mike Malone, there's not NBA coaches with world championship rings on their finger that are available, particularly guys that their fathers were assistants in Orlando for many, many years, like Mike Malone's dad, Brennan, was. So there's a lot of Magic fans that if Mosley doesn't get out of the first round, they will be screaming for Mike Malone.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a valid thing to bring up, because Malone is a very qualified coach. I think he'd be one of the hottest names on the coaching market, and I would imagine that we'll see. I mean, there hasn't been a ton of hot seat buzz, but I could see the Milwaukee Bucks at least moving on from Doc Rivers and potentially going after Malone as well. So I'd say if the Magic are considering that type of move, they're likely going to have to move fairly quickly.
You mentioned Cade Cunningham. Big news earlier this week. Detroit, the number 1 seed currently in the Eastern Conference. Cade Cunningham, clearly their best player and one of the best players in the league. But a scary situation, a reported collapsed lung for Cade Cunningham. Detroit is hoping that he can be back by the playoffs, but who knows? I mean, is devastating the correct terminology to talk about this injury for Cade Cunningham when it comes to the Pistons?
Absolutely. I mean, if he's not back by the playoffs, I just wrote about this right as you called, but I mean, suddenly the team that gets the 8th seed might have a legitimate chance of thinking first round upset here. I mean, Cade Cunningham is that important to the Pistons. He's leading the team both in scoring and in assists. I mean, he is the offensive engine for the Pistons. I mean, he's the reason that Jalen Duren turned into an all-star this year. Like, it's not with all due respect to Jalen Duren, who's having a phenomenal season, he's a big man. A big man needs a star point guard to get him the ball. They just don't, especially after giving up Jaden Ivey too. I mean, they are thin right now. I mean, Dennis Jenkins has played well for them, but they have been really, really reliant on Cade Cunningham this year. And yeah, if he's not back up by the playoffs, I think they will still potentially be favored in the first round. But if you're drawing say right now, the 8th seed, the Atlanta Hawks, who have won 11 straight games, the 9 seeds, the Sixers, who, right now are falling apart because everyone's hurt. But like, if you get to the playoffs and Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Paul George are all healthy and Cade Cunningham is not, I wouldn't be surprised if people were at least picking the Hawks or the Sixers as a trendy first round upset in that scenario.
Quickly, Brian, because I want to talk playoff picture, but I think it was Steve Kerr within the last week or two has come out and said that there's too many games in the NBA regular season. Now, we see injuries a lot in the NBA, but boy, there seems to be a lot of injuries this year with, how finely tuned these athletes are and the wear and tear on their bodies playing 35, 40 minutes a night. Is the NBA ever going to look at going down from 82 regular season games, in your opinion?
I don't want to say never, because I think they should, but I think both sides are a little too addicted to the money. And I think that's ultimately, the players, I think, would love to play fewer games until you realize, okay, but that's also cutting into your paychecks. And the owners, probably have no interest in giving up the ticket sales from those games, the concession sales, the national TV contracts would probably need to get renegotiated in that scenario. Like, a lot of parties are giving up a lot of money, and we're talking, probably in the figure of billions at that point. I think that's a tough sell for either side, unfortunately. So I think we're kind of stuck in this scenario where everyone knows this is not good for the game, but everyone's making so much money hand over fist that they're not going to do anything to change it.
Well, certainly an interesting situation, as there have been a lot of stars that have gone down with injuries. I want to end our conversation out west, Brian. Final thought in the East. I agree with you. Depending on the Cade injury in Detroit, clearly the Pistons, the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Cavs have separated themselves. Having said that, I think the gap has narrowed between them and, let's say, Charlotte, Miami, Orlando. You mentioned Atlanta's won 11 in a row. Toronto has shown some life. Philadelphia, when healthy, can be good. Of the teams that are not in the top four, who's the most dangerous to make it at least to the second round?
Ooh. I mean, it really depends on health. Like, if Orlando is fully healthy by the playoffs, I think they might be the answer. If Philly is healthy by the playoffs, I think they might be the answer. But I'm very not convinced that Philly will be healthy by the playoffs at this point. Paul George is back on next week from his 25-game suspension. Joel Embiid got upgraded to doubtful for the Kings game today, so I doubt he's coming back for this. But it seems like he's moving in the right direction, should hopefully be back in the next couple games. But Kelly Oubre Jr. is out with an elbow injury. They said he'd be reevaluated, I guess, next week. And then Tyrese Maxey is out with a finger injury. He's supposed to get reevaluated closer to the end of the month. You look at the calendar and it's okay, if they get reevaluated and they're not ready, we're running out of time before the play-in starts or before the playoffs start. So I think both Orlando and Philly are in a similar situation with the Pistons and with Cade right now, where it's just kind of a race against the clock to get everyone back and healthy and have the rust shaken off before the playoffs begin. And, unfortunately, I think both teams might run out of time, in which case Atlanta might be the answer. If Orlando and Philly are not healthy, Atlanta has mostly been feasting on cupcakes during this stretch, so I don't want to give them, too much credit right now, but they have been playing very well. CJ McCollum has fit very well there since he arrived there earlier this year. They could be frisky. I'll say that much.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, I saw Atlanta play Orlando, and they gave it to us pretty good a couple nights ago. Orlando's got Charlotte coming up. Charlotte's a team that, boy, they're fun to watch. I don't know if they can do anything in the postseason, but those guys can drill threes. And then Miami with Bam Adebayo, obviously that 83-point performance not that long ago. I just wish, Brian, that Orlando could play Miami every night, because Orlando is 7-0 against Miami this year. 2 wins in the preseason and 5 wins over the Heat in the regular season. Brian Toporek, Bleacher Report, and Forbes. Brian, final question. Let's head out west. I watched Oklahoma City a couple of nights ago in Orlando. Look, obviously they're good. I'm not breaking any news there. They're the defending world champion. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I don't know how you guard him. I mean, Desmond Bane, Jalen Suggs, they were there every play. They were there, and it didn't matter. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to get 30 a night, and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't know who's going to beat them in a best of 7.
I mean, the Spurs have beaten them a bunch during the regular season this year, so I think they would be the default answer. And, with all due respect to the Thunder, they won the title last year, very deservingly so. They're the best team in the NBA this year, record-wise, again, deservedly so. I do think we fall into this trap a lot with champions where, once they accomplish what they did, you forget how difficult it was for them to get there. I mean, the Nuggets pushed them to 7 last year, and the Pacers pushed them to 7 last year in the playoffs. So, they were not far away from getting knocked out in the second round last year. So I just don't think they are completely inevitable in the way that we often discuss them. They're going to go into the playoffs as the title favorites this year. And I think that is completely deserved. With that said, I think there is a realistic chance that the Spurs could beat them. And the Celtics, if they get to the finals, have looked really good. And Jason Tatum came back recently and already looks like Jason Tatum, despite being less than a year removed from an Achilles injury that used to be career threatening. The Nuggets, they're another team that just cannot get fully healthy this year, right? I mean, it's been Cameron Johnson, Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, now Peyton Watson's out. If they get fully healthy by the playoffs, like they were the team that pushed OKC to 7 last year. OKC is better this year, but so is Denver. So I think the Spurs, Celtics, and Nuggets probably are the only 3 teams I could see actually pulling it off. But I do think those 3 teams would have at least a puncher's chance against OKC in a 7-game series.
Brian Toporek. Brian, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about your NBA coverage for both Bleacher Report and Forbes and where they can find your work.
Sure, yeah. You can find all of my stuff on Blue Sky at Btoporek, Btoporek. You can find Sixers stuff at On SI, Lakers at Silver Screen and Roll, general NBA at Fansided and at Forbes Sports. And then, yes, also we got some fun projects being cooked up at BR right now, especially some fun NBA ones. So come hang out in the app, and we got a community voting project that we'll need some help on in the next few weeks. So definitely encourage people to come chip in on that.
Brian, you just rattled off like 6 different websites. I know how incredibly busy you are, man. Thank you for taking time out for us, and we'll talk soon, pal.
Of course, anytime. Thank you.
Jacksonville's one of a kind.
I heard a story about you. I was wondering if it's true.
Everything you've heard about me is true.
This is 1010XL.
All right, Jack, so let's talk about it. Spring cleaning feels great until your drains remind you what they've been holding on to all winter. If your sink's burping, your shower's backing up, or your toilet's hesitating like it's reading a blitz, it's time to call in the pros. Call Duck Rooter. During their spring drain cleaning promotion, get your drains cleaned plus a free camera inspection for just $129. Must have outside clean out, honest pricing, proven experience, no fourth quarter surprises. When you're stuck, call the Duck. That's 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
This free agency profile is covered by Universal Roof and Contracting. Experience the universal difference.
Jacksonville lies low in the free agent market and nails down some of their own. Cornerback Monteric Brown re-signs for 3 years and $33 million. The team in teal holds on to another corner, Christian Broswell, for 1 year and $1 million. And linebacker Dennis Gardeck stays in Duval for 2 years and $6.5 million.
Get ready for spring turkey season at Green Acres Sporting Goods. Find shotguns trusted in the field from Browning, Beretta, and Benelli. Plus, the newest bows are ready to test shoot from Hoyt and Matthews. For over 55 years, Green Acres Sporting Goods has helped Northeast Florida hunters gear up with confidence. Stop by Green Acres today at the corner of Normandy and Hammond Boulevard or shop online anytime at greenacresporting.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focus, fueled, fearless, Farah. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. With you till 10 o'clock. Thank you to Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes for talking a little association with us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. All right, Florida Gator tip time, 9:43 is what the NCAA is saying. So tip time for the Gators against Prairie View, about 15 minutes away. If Florida wins tonight, they will get Iowa on Sunday. The Iowa Hawkeyes have defeated the Clemson Tigers, the 9 Iowa over the 8 Clemson. Iowa is a team that I hadn't really watched. I got a good look at them tonight. They are a team that I was kind of told they were from some people that cover the Big Ten. They're a team that likes to take the shot clock down. They're a team that likes to slow the game down. They're a team that likes to limit possessions. This was an Iowa game. They beat Clemson 67-61. That is a low-scoring college basketball game. That fits right into Iowa's wheelhouse. So if Florida does beat Prairie View A&M tonight, and they are a 35.5-point favorite to do so, Florida's going to have to come to play on Sunday. And just know that Iowa wants the game to be 60-55. Iowa wants as few possessions as possible. They want to muck it up. They want it to be boring drag fest, which that means if you turn the ball over, that would fit right into Iowa's wheelhouse. So Florida, the last time out on Saturday, was not good at protecting the basketball. We all remember what Vanderbilt did to them. Let's hope they've worked out those issues over the last 6 days. I told this to Patrick Young earlier on Gator Bites. I've said it all week. Starting tonight, all right, it's like what they say in football, what coaches say in football. They want every offensive possession to end with a kick. Because if they end with a kick in football, it means it's either an extra point after a touchdown, it's either a field goal where you can get points, or it's a punt, and a punt is not great, but it sure as heck beats a turnover. Same idea for Gator basketball. Every offensive possession needs to end with the ball on the rim or the backboard. Because if the ball ends on the rim and the backboard, regardless if it goes in or not, if it doesn't go in, those four monsters in the front court, Chinyelu, Howell, Logden, and of course Condon, can go get the offensive rebound, can go establish themselves. If you don't get the ball up on the rim and you turn the ball over like you did against Vanderbilt, that completely limits what your front court can do. Now, tonight's not going to be the greatest test of that. I think the tallest player Prairie View has that actually plays is 6'8". So Florida is going to have a gigantic advantage in size against a Prairie View team that literally won their first NCAA tournament game in the history of their university this past Wednesday in Dayton. But you're going to get a good example of that on Sunday against Iowa if Florida were to advance. Other games that are beginning to wrap up. We mentioned Iowa over Clemson. St. John's is going to beat Northern Iowa, so St. John's will advance. Purdue is going to beat Queens, so Purdue is knocking out the Atlantic Sun champion. The only game that is somewhat in doubt right now, UCF has made it a game against UCLA. About 3 minutes to go. UCLA up 7. The Bruins have led this game the entire night. They lead UCF by 7, 3 minutes to go. We mentioned Florida and Prairie View, a 9:43 tip time. California Baptist and Kansas is tonight. Furman and UConn is tonight. And Missouri-Miami is tonight. SEC versus the ACC. That should be a good one between the Missouri Tigers and the Miami Hurricanes. Thank you again to Top Dawg Tavern out here in the Bartram area off of Old St. Augustine Road. Home game for me, only about 10 or so minutes from my house. I've come to Top Dawg Tavern a lot over the years. My son, Little Hack, really enjoys the little kids' play area they have inside the building. This is a great place to watch games, no doubt about that. It's rocking in here tonight for the NCAA tournament, but it's also a great family place to bring the wife and kids. It's a great date night. It's a great time to hang out with your buddies. It's kind of an all-encompassing experience out here at Top Dawg Tavern. It's certainly one of my places. Make it one of yours in the Bartram area off of Old St. Augustine Road. Back into the National Football League, my buddy Ryan Fowler has covered the NFL and primarily the NFL draft for years. Let's talk about free agency, the fallout from free agency, how that will affect what Jacksonville is going to do in the draft. And Ryan has worked a lot with the Washington Commander organization over the years. Obviously, the Jaguars just got Chris Rodriguez from the Washington Commanders. Ryan's got a lot to say about Chris Rodriguez, and he'll tell you about it next on a Friday night here in Northeast Florida with RJ Saunders as our on-site engineer and Aaron Williams back at the 1010XL studios. I'm the hacker Ryan Green, rolling on till 10 o'clock right here on 1010XL and on 92 FM.
1010XL puts the ball in play-by-play.
Kick on the way.
Impeccable today.
From way downtown. That ball's ripped.
For play-by-play, it's 1010XL.
At the First Coast YMCA, there's no place like this place, with programs and experiences that will bring your whole family together. Summer will be here before we know it, and Y Summer Day Camp registration is now open. Visit your local Y to secure your child's spot early for a season full of memories and adventure. Don't delay. Day camps will fill up. There's no place like this place, so visit your local Y to sign up or online at fcymca.org. Search Summer Day Camp.
Have you or someone you care about been arrested or had their driver's license taken away? I'm Susan Cohen, and I work with David Robbins at the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. We are experienced fighters for those charged with DUI and all criminal offenses. I've been named the best DUI attorney in the state, and David has been named the best criminal defense lawyer in Jacksonville. In your battle with the justice system, there is only one thing you need to know. Dial David 24/7 at Epstein & Robbins, 354-5645.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Now, the Monahan's golden moment. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach, your local family jewelers.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The NFL offseason continues moving right along. We're basically 2 weeks in to NFL free agency. We're just over a month away from the NFL draft up in Pittsburgh. And as far as the Jaguars go, well, there's certainly been some departures. Only a couple of new players, including obviously Chris Rodriguez from Washington. What do we make of what the Jaguars have done so far this offseason? Let's talk about it with Ryan Fowler, who's covered the NFL draft, and even the world of college football for years. And Ryan's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Ryan, how you doing, man?
Doing well, Ryan. It's the best time of year, and always appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man, we certainly appreciate it. You obviously have firsthand knowledge of the Washington Commanders, so I want to throw some Chris Rodriguez stuff at you in just a moment. But from a mile-high view, Travis Etienne departs for New Orleans. Devin Lloyd departs for Carolina. I think locally here in Jacksonville, Ryan, we were expecting both guys to leave. I think nationally it might have caught some people off guard. What do you make of the guys that left in free agency for the Jaguars?
Yeah, I think overall, it's other than the departures, right? It's been a quiet offseason so far for James Gladstone and company, and I think that's okay. I think sometimes, where volume doesn't always mean improvement, and I think there's obviously going to be spots where you look at running back, of course, with Travis gone, to where there's going to be more expectations for guys like Bashal Tutin and LaQuinn Allen. And I know we'll talk about Chris here in just a minute. Or you look on the defensive side of the ball and really what do they expect from guys like Ventrell Miller, or obviously Foye Oluokun's been a guy that's been in the picture now for a few seasons. So it's asking those guys to step up. It's obviously they're trusting in the amount of really day two picks that they have in this draft where they like some players in a loaded linebacker class. You look at the running backs as well. They want to add another piece there for more competition for young players. So I think I'm right there with you. nationally, there was a little bit of eyes open to big headliners for a team that, was right on the brink of really becoming one of the AFC elites last year. I think they're going to be one of the teams in the AFC South to win the division again this year. So I just think overall it's been a quiet offseason. I don't think by any means, you're raising the pitchforks as far as losing two headliners. But overall, they're in a really nice spot moving into 2026 with a bunch of core players returning on either side of the ball.
You've been one of our draft guys for years. Let's begin with Devin Lloyd. With his departure, they have Ventrell Miller on the roster, as you mentioned. They have Branson Combs on the roster, and they have Jack Kaiser on the roster. Is one of those guys the replacement for Devin Lloyd, or do they need to go out and draft somebody?
I would love to see them draft a guy. I think that second, third round bucket is absolutely loaded. I mean, a couple names that come to mind, whether you look at Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech or Jake Golday from Cincinnati, both of those players I think would really be my focus if I'm James Gladstone. Now, I will say this, in that I really do still like the skill set of Jack Kaiser. I liked him coming out of Notre Dame. I thought just in the early portions of his career in 2025, his ability to play up and down a defensive front. He's not going to be your modern day athletic linebacker where you're asking him to roam to the numbers and carry tight ends up the seam. That's really what you can expect from guys specifically like Jake Golday, as I just mentioned, more of those athletic pieces. But if you want a versatile, extremely intelligent linebacker with his time at Notre Dame, what he was able to do in the middle of that defense back in college, that's a guy I think right away, not going to fill the shoes exactly what Devin Lloyd could do, but just a really experienced young player, mature beyond his years, downhill type of physical ball player. But again, the focus really for Gladstone and company should be adding a dynamic backer or two potentially in those middle rounds where they have a ton of picks.
NFL and NFL draft analyst Ryan Fowler with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Ryan, on the offensive side of the ball, Travis Etienne, as we mentioned, departs for New Orleans. You talked about Bashell Tootin and LaQuint Allen Jr. You have covered the Washington Commander organization for quite some time, so you're very familiar with Chris Rodriguez. In talking to people up in Washington over the last week, the vibe I got was there was a lot of head scratching as to why he did not get the ball more last year, and B, why they would let a restricted free agent at only 26 years old walk out the door. What was your takeaway on the Jaguars signing Chris Rodriguez?
I think it's really one of my favorite underrated signings of the offseason for really any team in the AFC South, to be completely frank with you, Ryan. I think when you look at what Chris Rodriguez is going to provide, if you look at it from a spreadsheet perspective right now, you could say he's behind Tootin and Allen. I think he's someone to where you look in the rearview mirror, you don't want to see Chris Rodriguez there in a depth chart because he is someone, you talk a lot about guys taking advantage of snaps, taking advantage of reps. Chris Rodriguez does that. Every single time he gets the ball in his hands, he makes the most of it. He's consistently falling forward. He can win inside and outside the tackles. Now, he's not going to be someone like the hands of what we saw from LaQuint Allen really at times last year or even coming out of Syracuse, whereas a third down dynamic ball carrier. But if you need 3 yards on a 3rd and 2, or you need something on a 1st and 5 at the goal line, or you need someone to come in and potentially lead a backfield if Tootin or Allen potentially were to get injured and they miss any amount of time, Chris Rodriguez, again, as you mentioned, talking to some folks in Washington, there are a lot of questions last year in that Cliff Kingsbury offense of why he didn't get the ball enough. They sent out Brian Robinson for a reason. They liked Bill Krosky-Merritt and what they got in the 7th round. But every single time Chris Rodriguez touched the ball, good things happened where along that front 5, that really was one of their strengths last year in Washington. So I really like the addition from James Gladstone. Still a young player with a lot to prove. He's built this culture of competition, if you will, down there in Jacksonville, and he's going to push this offense, I think, elevate them specifically in that short yardage, inside, outside the tackles part of their ground game.
Yeah, he had 500 yards rushing. He found the end zone 6 times last year in Washington. And look, I was on the Rachaad White train mainly because I knew he had familiarity with Cohen. I didn't even think about Chris Rodriguez, who was also with Liam Cohen for 1 year down there at Kentucky. So Cohen went out and found a tailback that he's very familiar and comfortable with.
He absolutely did. I think familiarity and relationships do matter. See it in the coaching ranks as far as recycled names. And sometimes you see it with players. So back to their college days, as you mentioned with Cohen in the SEC at Kentucky. So I think Chris Rodriguez overall, again, you have now 3 backs that are going to come into camp and they're going to push each other. You're not looking at it to where we have definite RB1, RB2, RB3. I think you have 3 complementary pieces where Tootin can roll to the perimeter. You have Rodriguez downhill, and you have LaQuint Allen. It really has that 3-down type of back that really has some excellent hands coming out of Syracuse from what you saw. And I want to see more of that in 2026.
Couple more for Ryan Fowler. Ryan, the one guy they did re-sign here in Jacksonville was Monteric Brown, a 3-year, $33 million deal. Now, understanding that Travis Hunter and Jordan Lewis are both coming back off of season-ending injuries last year, and you have to take that into account. But if one assumes that both guys will be good to go come August and September, you look in that Jaguar corner room, Buster Brown, Travis Hunter, Jarian Jones, Jordan Lewis. Ryan, on paper, that looks like 4 pretty good corners here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree that I would say it's a top-heavy group. for me, Ryan, but I think overall, I think you do need another guy in the corners room. I mean, you look at on defense to where you can never have enough pass rushers. I think you need another guy that can play some man to play some zone in the back end of that defense. Now, what's unique about this corner class and where they're going to be, they could add a corner or two with the amount of selection they have post round one, of course, with no first round pick. You look at the guys that could be like a Chandler Rivers from a Duke, or really one of the best pound for pound corners in this class, D'Angelo Pons, even though he's an outlier from a size perspective. Or you get to some of these bigger players. There are only 3 guys at the combine that measured in 6'3" or taller, and that was Devin Moore from Florida, Ephesians Prysock, one of the best names in the class out there at Washington, and then his teammate Tacario Davis, who just a year ago, Ryan, we were talking about as a potential first-round pick there for the Wildcats before he transferred over to the Huskies. So very unique class of his corners, really once you get beyond Terrell and Hood and Delane and Jermon McCoy, of course, from Tennessee. So I think they could add another player in that day 2, early day 3 bucket. A lot of varying body types, including a guy like Davison Igbinosun from Ohio State. Could be another option to add to the secondary.
Final moments with NFL draft, and college football analyst Ryan Fowler. He's with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Ryan, I want to look at this draft class as a whole, but a quick thought from you on James Gladstone. Last week, Gladstone held a press conference, and he talked about the compensatory picks. And, I mean, for crying out loud, the Jaguars currently sit with 21 picks over the next 2 drafts, 11 this year, already 10 in 2027. I know that outside of Jacksonville, people saw that and thought, you're losing Devin Lloyd and ETN, and you're more interested in the comp picks that you're getting back. Again, Gladstone learned from Les Snead, and Les Snead's been using comp picks to his advantage for a long, long time. A guy like you that covers the draft, and as long as you've done it, what's your thought on Gladstone, the whole idea of wanting those compensatory draft selections?
Well, as much as we live in the now, right, the present day, Ryan, you are always preparing for the future. And it really goes into where you're looking at the college scouting staff, to where you're talking about, yes, the 2026 class is just a few months or almost 6 weeks away from hearing their names called, but teams are already looking at 27. And that is, as of right now, I'm not going to go through the names, but it looks like a potentially historic class at a lot of different positions, of course, potentially headlined by wide receiver Jeremiah Smith out of Ohio State, who could be really a wide receiver 1 in the NFL today if you really wanted to. So, again, as much as you're preparing for the now, you're preparing for the future. And I think James Gladstone has his roster. And again, I mentioned earlier the culture of competition on either side of the ball. You have young core pieces. You have your quarterback. You have your guys on defense that we expect even more out of, with guys like Travis Hunter. What is he going to be in year 2? I'm extremely excited to see him. You're looking at a guy like Brian Thomas and say, look, if you're not going to show up here, you don't want to be here, we'll throw your name around the trading block, but also we have guys behind you potentially to step up. It's always preparing for what's next. As much as it is focusing about the now, I really, really am excited personally, Ryan, about the future of this Jaguars roster because of the organization and how it's run from the top down, to where you're always looking ahead. And 2027 is going to be a historic draft. You can never have enough selections in the draft. Give yourself some more of those proverbial darts at the dartboard. And I think James Gladstone has done a heck of a job here already in the past. What he's going to do in 26, and then moving forward into really a draft next year that really could be historic in 27.
And, of course, Gladstone's already proven that he'll trade some of those picks, a 4th and a 6th rounder for Jacoby Myers, a 6th rounder for Tim Patrick. So the more picks you accumulate, the more chances you might have at not only drafting, but potentially bringing in some veterans via trade. Ryan, final thought. Jaguars don't have a first-round pick. We've talked about that. They have 5 picks in the top 124. And in talking to you about a month ago and in talking to other folks around the league that cover the draft, obviously not having a first-round pick is what it is, but having 5 picks in the top 120 basically in a draft like this year particularly, is not a terrible spot to be in if you're Jacksonville.
No, it's not at all. It's not at all. And I think this is a roster, again, you're going to continue to add young, fast, versatile players. As far as the steps that this team took on defense last year, like you're losing Devin Lloyd, you're going to add another backer. Could you add another corner or safety? Could you add another edge rusher, a guy within the interior? I think a name to watch on early portions of day 2 is potentially a guy like Caleb Banks out of Florida? Do you want to add another receiver? This receiver group has a lot of the vertical type of players. Jeremy Bernard from Alabama, Chris Brazzell from Tennessee, potentially if he leaks into the second round bucket. I think when you look along the edge group to where you have guys like a Wesley Williams and a Vincent Anthony, one of the more, both those guys from Duke, Mason Rieger from Wisconsin, they're going to have a lot of options, second, third, fourth, sixth round, to get a lot of players is where you build a championship roster. They're not going to have a shot at one of the blue chip guys in this class. It is a top heavy draft, but in this class where linebacker, potentially even adding a running back, receiver, they're going to be in a really nice spot to add some contributors, lots of them here in 2026.
Ryan, final question. We got about 60 seconds. You mentioned Caleb Banks. He was skyrocketing up the charts. Then we find out that he has a broken foot issue, and he's going to be out till probably June or July. What does that do to his stock? And with that, another local defensive tackle, Daryl Jackson from Florida State. I think both guys would look very good in Jaguar uniforms.
Yeah, I agree. Starting out with Banks, the way that he moves at his size, seeing him live at the Senior Bowl was very impressive. Someone of that size really shouldn't move that way, right? He could play one tech, three tech along the defensive line. He could play head up on a guard or a center as well. He's going to be a player. As of right now, he possibly may not get out of the top 50 picks. I know the Jaguars are right there early on and, or middle portions of day two. But then you look at also Daryl Jackson from Florida State, to where he's a little bit of an awkward mover for me, Ryan. And what I mean by that is as far as just his lateral agility at times, I think he's one of the most powerful players in this class. I think Caleb Banks, even Ruben Bain, of course, are up there for me in that facet. But just I want to see the lateral agility a little bit more, be able to get off blocks. Not everything has to be worn and won through the chest plate of an offensive lineman. A little bit more lateral agility, but that will come with time. That will come with just increased coaching as well. I'm always a believer in development and the arcs of players, not expecting right away for a guy like this, like Jackson, to be drafted maybe late second round, third round. You have to believe in coaching. You have to believe in development. I think that's one of the guys in the middle rounds with the power, the length, and the size and experience that he had in the ACC. That's someone, I agree with you, that would look really good in a Jacksonville Jaguar uniform and complement some of these other young players that they've added there within the interior over the last few years.
The man has covered the NFL and the NFL draft for a long time, my buddy Ryan Fowler. Ryan, I know you're busy. Thank you as always for the time, and let's do it one more time before the draft in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Thanks as always, Ryan. Take care.
And there you go, Ryan Fowler with us here on Hacker After Dark. Certainly appreciate his time this evening as the Jaguars get ready for the NFL draft next month. 5 picks in the top 124, 11 picks total for Jacksonville in this year's draft, and already 10 picks for 2027 because they've already received compensatory selections for the losses of Devin Lloyd, Travis Etienne, and even Greg Newsome after he signed with the New York Football Giants. So we certainly spent a lot of time on the National Football League tonight. As you can imagine, we spent a ton of time on the NCAA tournament. The Florida Gators are on the court right now, just tipping off against Prairie View A&M. If they win tonight, they will certainly be back on Sunday. And look, they're a 35-point favorite tonight, so one would expect them to get the victory this evening. We'll find out tip times for Sunday in a little bit, but of course, if Florida wins, you'll hear their second-round game right here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM on Sunday. And if they win Sunday, then they head to Houston for the Sweet 16, and we will ultimately see what happens. Potentially Vanderbilt, potentially Nebraska on down the line, potentially Houston. Don't want to get too far ahead, as again, Florida needs to win tonight and win on Sunday before they make that trip out to Houston. Busy week, man. Crazy week with NFL free agency, obviously the NCAA tournament. It has been a heck of a lot of fun, and it's been a heck of a lot of fun out here tonight at Dawg Tavern. Kind of a home away from home for me. This is a home game for me, being in the Mandarin Bartram area down off of Old St. Augustine Road. Dawg Tavern, family friendly. I mean, it's a sports bar, but it's so much more than that. Delicious food, friendly wait staff, really good location down here off of Old St. Augustine Road. If you're in the Mandarin, the Bartram, the South Side area, and you're looking for a place to come watch sporting events, certainly the NCAA tournament, or if you're looking for a night out with the family, head on out here to Top Dawg Tavern off of Old St. Augustine Road in the Bartram area. And we certainly appreciate the great folks out here at Top Dawg Tavern for having us out tonight here on Hacker After Dark. We have a ton of people to thank for tonight's broadcast. Again, NFL and NFL draft analyst Ryan Fowler. Thank you to Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes for talking a little association with us here on Hacker After Dark as the NBA playoffs are about a month away. And my buddy Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4 stopped by back in hour number 1. Always appreciate Jamal joining us to talk a little Jaguar off season here on Hacker After Dark. Now, we will be back on Monday, and we will do it all over again beginning at 8 o'clock. Aaron Williams was your producer tonight. Aaron, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And Jacksonville, thank you for spending not only your Friday night with us, but your entire week with us here on Hacker After Dark. As we always tell you, and we cannot possibly tell you enough how much we absolutely appreciate it. So for all of us here on HAD, have a terrific remainder of your Friday evening and a fantastic weekend. And again, thank you to our friends out here at Top Dawg Tavern for having us out tonight on Hacker After Dark. Until Monday at 8 o'clock, good night, Jacksonville.